Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Brighter Horizons podcast, episode 26. And as always, I am back now. But last week we had a guest episode. Abby did a great job. Let's give him a round of applause real quick. Good job, Abby, because he brought a perspective that I don't normally bring. Because while I like to reference movies every once in a while, I don't watch movies the way that he does. Yeah. And he talked about how he watched a movie for 30 days, like one movie every single day.
For all of summer, 90 days.
Oh, was it 90 days?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was. And then he did like a review on them, right? Yeah, so he definitely does a lot of research, and he did a great job. So good job, Abby. But I'm back now, and we're bringing the energy today. You know why?
Why?
It's summertime, baby. Summer is back. Now, before I go any further, favorite season on 3. 1, 2, 3, summer. Thank you.
I don't know. I was so hesitant.
But it's only a difference, but like it's a competition between summer and winter for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then we're in agreement.
But we're both hockey people, so it's hard. Exactly. It's hard to not say
winter.
But
let's be honest. What can beat the Golden Rays during?
I guess
summer?
It's interesting because I always feel happier during summer. Like today, I don't know if it was today. No, it was yesterday. I was on the bus, and I was just taking the bus, and I was just looking outside, and it was so bright, and I was like, man. Like, it's so good to be alive. I was so happy, like, just sitting there listening to my music and just staring out the window, pondering. But I felt so happy just by the sun. So I guess I could say that summer makes me a lot happier, but winter's just got it's got a feel to it. It's got a vibe to it.
Yeah.
That makes it very enjoyable.
For sure. Well, on today's episode, guys, we're going to be talking about, A, how to create an unshakable mind, B, the importance of rest and sleep, and C, how to expand your understanding of the world. Without further ado, let's jump right into it.
Wait. We need some further ado.
What is the further ado?
Because to this podcast family, we have brought a new member. Everybody, say hello to Plant.
Oh, yeah, Plant. I didn't even introduce Plant.
Plant is here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to
give him that close up.
Yeah, we got a Plant.
Hitting the angles.
There you go.
Get mogged by Plant.
All right, bro. Don't ever say that again.
Okay. Well, anyways, I love Plant. He holds a very special place in my heart, and that's why he's here.
Yeah.
So,
but now, without further ado, let's jump into it.
Let's get into it. So, first of all, I wanted to talk about why is it important to have an unshakable mind? Do you want to open it up?
I mean, sure. Obviously, I think that self-confidence is absolutely necessary in this world because you're going to be. I think we talked about it 2 episodes ago. On our last episode together, we talked about self-confidence. And in life, you're going to always be faced with people that don't believe or with ambitions that are extremely lofty. And if you don't believe that you can achieve it, then obviously you won't, right? You won't put in the effort necessary to do it. So to be able to understand that in your way of thinking, I can do it, you'll definitely be able to go farther in life, right? Without taking other people's criticism as an attack, but instead as like a stepping stone, if that makes sense.
Okay. I can agree with that. My personal thoughts about why it was so important was because of my personal experience. Because realistically, as we always say, it's nice to talk about how other people experience it because it can help you draw points and explain the theory behind something. But as we all know, theory it'll only take you so far. The experience of understanding what happens in the moment is much more valuable, in my opinion. So what happens to you when your mind is shakeable? It's easily flustered. When something pulls you in one direction and now all of a sudden you're going that way. It's kind of like a sailor who doesn't know how to adjust his sails when the wind blows a certain way. Now he's completely blown away in a completely opposite direction of his own port. So just like that sailor, when something comes along and it pushes you in a certain direction, the question is, do you flail out and just follow that wind? Or are you going to stay head on for your own course? One big thing for a lot of people nowadays is the many distractions that we have around us. So for some people, it's too much screen time. For others, it's going out every single weekend, and that pulls them away from their purpose. But I think the worst one of all is the prevalence of lust in today's community. Well, not community, I guess society. Because as humans become more and more comfortable with our lives and we have less and less problems, we begin to indulge in worse and worse things. That's actually a very interesting way to put it. I didn't even think about that. I just came up with that.
Mm.
As we get more comfortable, we indulge in worse things.
I'm sitting here in the silence because I'm thinking about, like, is there anything that really goes against it? Because I get that point. That's a great point.
Mm-hmm.
Because I guess as we advance, we always create new problems for ourselves. And
Yeah.
I think the ones that we create are far more dangerous than the ones that existed.
Yeah.
Right? Like before, it was natural disaster, or, oh, I might get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. Nowadays,
Or even if you take it like
yeah,
only, let's say, 100 years back, I might die in this world war.
yeah,
That was another big thing. But now that we have settled into a life of peace, at least here on the West End, there's a lot of conflict
but yeah, I would
elsewhere.
have said it.
It's just that here we experience such a lofty life that we don't appreciate what we have and we start indulging in these bad things. But if you were to, be dropped into the middle of all that war going on the other side of the globe, it would be a very different story for you.
Yeah, I completely agree.
But I guess that's kind of the truth of history in general. There's always going to be conflict in places and peace in other places, right? Unless I guess it's a world war. But even then, there's definitely going to be places that are peaceful. Like imagine
Yeah.
living on an island where there's no press at all, no internet, no technology. You just live your own life. Everybody's blowing each other up on the outside world, and you're just kind of, plucking your coconuts, laying on the beach.
I feel like maybe people overestimate how important the society we created is. And this was something that, somebody told me in my English class, one of my friends. We were talking about, like, we're in English First Peoples, and we're talking, about, like, indigenous peoples and their histories and the problems that they faced. And one of the main situations that that we talk about is how, when European settlers came in, they believed that, indigenous people were primitive. And at first, I kind of, like, I'm not saying that, like, I believe that, but I shared a similar belief to them in the sense that they weren't as developed as in our terms. But the truth of the matter is that the word developed doesn't mean however much technology you have, however much money you have, however much order you have. It's about how well your society functions. That's what separates a first world country from a third world country. It's not based off of how technologically advanced you are. It's about how well your society actually runs. Because if you think about it, if we didn't have all this stuff, yet our society still ran fine, would we consider ourselves primitive? I don't think so, because it's what we would have known. We just only say that it's primitive because it's what it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is that with this quote unquote development, we've created far more problems than I think we did solutions.
Well, it's because they confused old with dysfunctional. Like the two are not correlative. If something is old but it still works,
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And realistically, if you look at today's society compared to what First Nations people had. Now, granted, am I going to be able to enjoy all the things I enjoy nowadays in that society? Probably
Obviously
not.
not, yeah.
But I think that there are a lot of benefits to that.
I think
too.
it's always that obviously it's cliche, but with good comes bad.
Yeah.
So with the great things that you have today, the way that I'll put it is, if you want good things, you have to be willing to accept the bad things. And if you don't want the bad things, then throw away the good things. That's kind of the whole premise of Buddhism, if you really break it down, is that if you want materialistic good things, you need to accept that with your greed will come pain and will come suffering.
True.
But if you let go of the happiness, then the sadness will follow.
But that's such a difficult thing to do, I guess, for everybody ever, to let go of everything.
That's why, it's actually, wait, I'll let you finish.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, because as humans, we cling on to things that we enjoy, but we still want to discard everything that hurts us. But you understand that you can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
Like, life is just an act of balance. Unless you exist in, like, let's say you're looking at, like, the yin and yang, just, you have to exist outside of that for there to be no bad in your life. Because there can't be good in your life without bad, right? So you need to exist in a plane completely different to what most people live in. That's why it's impossible. But anyways, continue with your
Because
point.
I was going to say, this is what me and Abby actually talked about. One of our sections was we talked about Buddhism and how there are all these monks that practice Buddhism, yet there's only one Buddha, right? So all these people are practicing, trying to do it, but it's not possible because I think it's necessary to live with some bad. Or not necessary, more mandatory.
Yeah,
You
I
don't.
guess.
I think with the good things that you want in life will come negative and evil things in life.
Well, my thing is that as these negative things come along, it's important for you to have an unshakable mind so that you can continue to move towards your destination without worrying about these things that everybody else is caught up in. Now, that's not an easy statement by any means because we live in an age where this brick can take us to many, many places in an instant, right? Everything is so accessible to us. So the question is, how do you avoid those things? The answer is to have an unshakable mind. You need to have faith in yourself. But also, I think another thing is that's where the whole debate of God comes into play because many people are able to overcome their own impulses by following in the footsteps of God and, using his strength to help them through it. Now, granted, neither of us are believers of God at this point in time, but since we were raised as Buddhists, right? But I definitely understand why other people find it empowering to believe in God because it pushes you to consistently be better and avoid the same temptations that many other people fall into. So if maybe you're somebody who struggles with that, maybe that's one place you want to look at because I feel like in today's society, people have counted out religion way too much.
Yeah.
I agree that it's not always based in the realm of fact. There's not always a clear-cut scientific answer to a lot of things that are mentioned in like the Bible or the Quran. Like there's a lot of things that don't make sense, but there's still a lot of things that do make sense and that you can't really explain with science.
I think that people have misinterpreted the point of religion
Mm.
because I was actually talking to one of my buddies about this, and he's like Christian, and I always love to debate with him about these topics, not because I disagree, but because first off, I enjoy debating, and secondly, it's nice to extract that kind of information, right? Most information is gained from debates.
Yeah.
So I always question him and I'm asking him. And many people fall under the assumption, believing that, for example, with Christians, like, oh, the only reason you're a Christian is so you can go to heaven. But the point is that the point of the religion is not to go to heaven, but to make well of your time on earth. So it's not actually about the afterlife. It's about the current life. You should be living as a good person, not for the future, but for right now. Many people misinterpret this, and that's why they have this negative connotation of religion.
Yeah.
But the point of religion is not about going to heaven or going to hell. It's about being a good person, right? And I'm not saying you have to be religious, but I'd say look at the book because a lot of this information is applicable to your life, even though it's not direct. And I'd say that lack of information is a leading cause of, I'd say, like malfunction for a lot of people. And I wrote this down as I said that experience is the root of both success and failure. Yeah. A lack of experience leads to failure, while an excess leads to success. So when you don't go out there into the world and live at all, how do you expect to understand where life's going to take you? I also wrote this down, is how could a fish that lives in a pond ever understand the ocean, right? You have no concept of what's out there. So when, for example, said fish gets taken to the ocean and let go, how is it going to react? It has no concept of it. So when you chose to live in your pond without ever venturing anywhere else, you are eventually going to be put into the ocean. And at some point, you need to understand that you should experience it. You need to experience it. Because if you sit through life not experiencing anything, at some point that experience is going to come to you. And it's far worse for a bad experience to come to you when you're not prepared than for you to go to one when you are. So go out there and do things, experience life, because with it comes success.
100%. And if you connect religion to our main topic of the unshakable mind, another reason why I think it's so important is look at the people that most of us, or many of us, I guess, look up to. You could talk about many people, like living people, but let's say the people that everybody knows about that are admired and transcend like earthly understanding. Let's say Jesus, God, Lord Buddha, the Prophet, these people had an unshakable mind for a reason. That's why they are the way they are, right? So if you look up to these people, then maybe you should understand that one thing that helped them get to where they are, yes, is their unshakable mental state. Now, granted, I guess I can't really say that about God because we don't really understand anything about God, but I'd assume that as a being that created the entire universe, he created everything with intention and purpose. So I'm sure that his mind was in a good place when he did so. So now the question is, how do you do it? How do you create an unshakable mind? We know it's important, but it seems like a daunting task. So what do? I'm going to take it to Lord Buddha, one of the people I just mentioned. Why is it that he is so admirable, and why do people follow him? Because he did one of the greatest things anyone can do to help them understand the world, understand themselves, and create mental resilience. Step 1, reject comfort. Everybody always says that comfort is the killer of dreams, and I could not agree more. If you look at Lord Buddha's life, what was it that led him to become such a spiritual leader and complete revolutionary in the way that we think about life? It was the fact that he was born a prince. He was born into this palace of luxury where he could live his life peacefully behind this gate, never have to deal with suffering, and die a peaceful and happy life. But instead, he left. Why? Because he understood that there was a world out there. There were so many things to be learned. So he rejected the comfort that he was given at birth. And instead, he sought after a life of suffering to try and understand how to get out of it. Do you expect yourself to find a way out of suffering if you don't experience it? Do you think that you'll find a solution to a problem if you don't even attempt it? No, of course not. So if you're going to sit there comfortably on your bed or on your couch and eat potato chips all day, of course, you're not going to find the solution to many of your problems.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, go ahead.
And this is gonna, it's a contradictory question, but I would ask you, where do you stop? Where do you stop on the chase? To what extent do you keep going?
Where you continuously reject comfort and embrace suffering. To me, I think that the best way to describe it is, when do you think you're done? Now, as it might sound like a kind of ambiguous answer that avoids the question.
Okay, the reason I laughed is because that's like a gambler's number one term.
What?
Is knowing when to stop. You never know when to stop.
True. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
But for example, let's look at somebody like David Goggins looking at me with piercing eyes on that book. Okay? He's somebody who has put himself through more hell than any of us could have imagined or done in our lifetime. Okay? But every time he talks about it, he doesn't talk about it like it was the worst thing he ever did. I mean, he does sometimes for sure because he's done crazy things. But every aspect of that was used to build him up. So it's kind of on you to understand what you can do. What can you take? What suffering and pain is enough for you to grow, but not too much to break you? Yeah. And I guess that it's kind of a stress test. You know how, like, for example, in an engineering class, when you build those bridges out of spaghetti and you use weight to test how strong it is, you're not going to know how strong it is in the first place if you don't weigh it. And the truth is, you might break the bridge, but you can always rebuild it. So regardless of how far you go with embracing suffering and rejecting comfort, the point is that it will make you a better person as long as you don't take it to the extreme. And let's say you do take it to the extreme and you crumble, you fall, everything sucks. The beauty of life is you can rebuild. You can continue where you left off and just bring yourself back. So I think that it's important to know when to stop for sure. But if you don't experience it in the first place, how do you expect to grow?
All right. What I was going to say, and I guess I thought of this answer after I asked the question. And my answer to it is that you do know. You always do. And the way that you can tell that you know is when you walk away, you don't feel a regret that you could have done more, and you don't feel a sadness that you did what you did. So you know that you went as far as you needed to go. Because in your heart, this is what I said is, anytime you want to make a decision, flip a coin. Because for a moment while that coin's in the air, you secretly know which option you really want. Mm-hmm. So in your heart, you always know the right decision. It's just a question of can you convince your mind to believe the same thing. So I guess because you need to understand that your heart, and when I say heart, I don't mean your physical heart organ, but I mean your more emotional intelligence and your mind are not the same thing. They're all these different conflicting parts of you. And sometimes you can ask yourself, oh, why did I do that wrong thing? It's because you were disaligned. Your mind didn't agree with your heart. And that's one thing that you need to learn in life. And we all do, I myself included, is that your heart is such an important part of who you are. Because it is what dictates what you do. Because in the end, your heart is what allows you to judge whether things are right or wrong. Because what's right to you isn't right to me, and what's right to me isn't right to you. So having empathy and a love in your heart that can tell you that maybe the decision that is best in my mind is not the right one. Don't be so arrogant and self-centered to believe that you are right in every single decision. And the reason I'm smiling so much is because the person I have described thus far is me. And I'm willing to admit that. I've recently been in my life, I've grown up a very stubborn and arrogant guy. But of course I'm trying to change it. I really am. And I've learned that logic and the mind aren't always the best way to answer life's problems. Sometimes you need to look at it through a heart's lens. And the truth is, I think you always do look at it with a heart's lens, but your mind is always more powerful. It will always be, because your mind in the end is the determinant of what you actually do. You'll always do what your mind believes, because your mind is it's your brain basically for your soul.
Well, the best way I'll describe it is the mind is still in the driver's seat, right?
Yeah, exactly. So your heart is in the passenger seat. It's telling you, hey, slow down, slow down, slow down. This is unsafe. You shouldn't be doing it. This isn't the kind of person that you want to be. But your mind sometimes takes the driver's wheel. So by creating an unshakable mind, you create one that aligns with your heart and that understands that, hey, when my heart tells me when my heart speaks, I need to listen. And it might be cringy, corny, or cliche, if you will, but the heart is the best way to solve your problems because it is who you really are.
Yeah, 100%. And I could not control how much I smiled in that segment right there, just because being able to admit you're wrong on something is such a powerful thing. Like, I don't think I could emphasize it more to somebody, because that's how you grow.
Yeah.
And for you to do it on the air and show a bunch of people, well, I guess not a bunch. Well, yeah, kind of a bunch of you. We got 200 whole subscribers now.
Yeah.
So to show all those people that, hey, I was wrong about something, I think that's a big flex. And it's something for you guys to know about us is we don't play the holier than thou card.
Yeah.
We know that we're all human and we make mistakes too. We don't live a perfect life behind our closed doors and behind these screens, but we do our best. And I think that's the most you could realistically ask for.
And I'll tell you guys that we are transparent. We are willing to admit the fact that we're not perfect. And as much as we try, obviously, I think the fact is that we do try. We put in the effort to live the life that we preach. And I think you guys should also try the same. Is what you say, live by it. Because in the end, that's what really matters.
Yeah, for sure.
Because usually what you say is what you believe. And to live what you believe is a very important thing.
100%. And now I'm going to fire through the last two things on how to create an unshakable mind, and then we'll move on to our next topic. So the last two things I have to say are the first thing I said about creating an unshakable mind was to reject comfort to an extent. As always, don't take things to the extreme, but reject comfort, embrace suffering, and learn about yourself and what you're capable of. 2, discipline. Every successful person ever embraced discipline beyond reproach. Kobe Bryant, in the gym every single day, working out. David Goggins, running hundreds of miles every single week, nonstop, no matter what the conditions are. Any entrepreneur, look at Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, like all these people who went far, show up every single day. Because life is a marathon, not a sprint, as they always say. So showing up every day is critical, because that is what tells your brain, no matter what is happening, whether it's raining, whether it's snowing, whether the sun is shining bright today, I'm going to show up and do what I need to do. that fortitude, that mental fortitude, is what allows you to avoid a lot of the push and pulls of daily situations. That discipline to show up every single day is what's going to keep you on the right path. And the last thing that I have to say about building an unshakable mind is having one that is very still and calm in any situation. Yes, the heart must take the wheel sometimes. It must guide you and give you direction in life. I feel like the heart speaks about passion and drive. But at the same time, you're definitely right in saying that logic is very important and that the brain is still in the driver's seat. So you have to have a brain that does not freak out about small things. We talked about it on the episode where we said, is violence necessary? And how people get so frustrated about small things. I've seen many situations that could have been diffused by people just calming down. I've seen people get into full-on fistfights over things that didn't even matter afterwards. You are the judge of how you act. But what determines that is how calm your mind is and how rationally you can think in those moments. So that is all I got.
I just want to add one more thing on the end. And I think when you go through life, you need to have the understanding of uncertainty. Life isn't determined for you. It's something that you figure out along the way. There is no matter how perfect your master calendar of life plan is, I guarantee you that life is going to throw some curveballs at you that you're not going to be ready for. But having an unshakable mind means understanding that fact, that life is going to take me somewhere, but I need to be ready to ensure that it takes me where I want to go. But what I want to say is, in your mind, have the awareness that you do not know everything. Always choose to make decisions based on that fact. Sometimes life will throw a curveball at you. Don't act as if you know everything, because the truth of the matter is you don't. And the reason that I got thinking about this is because I was thinking about Avatar. And there's a quote from it that I never understood. Like growing up, I never understood this quote. And I heard it, I've watched this show, I think like 21 times now. And I never understood this quote. And the quote is, "Destiny? What would a boy know of destiny? If a fish lives its whole life in this river, does he know the river's destiny? No, only that it runs on and on, out of his control. He may follow where it flows, but he cannot see the end. He cannot imagine the ocean." Who said that?
Uncle Iroh?
Come on, man.
Okay, listen, it's been a hot minute since I've watched it. Okay, give me one small hint.
Well, he's also a firebender. That should be all the hint you need.
Prince Zuko?
No.
Of course he's not smart enough to say
Come
something
on,
like
man.
that.
There's only 2 good firebenders in the entire show aside from Zuko. Iroh and one other person.
Good as in he's a good person?
Yes. Come on, man.
I'm so cooked. Why don't I know this?
It's unbelievable.
Well, technically you could count Zuko as a good person. Okay, so 3.
Okay, yeah, but I said aside from Zuko, there's only 2 people. Iroh's one of them. Who's the other one? You're
Okay.
unbelievable.
Who?
His student is an admiral. I should say was an admiral. Jong. For those of you that don't know Avatar, just know that this guy's a fool.
Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna have to take the L on this one.
Yeah,
I might have to go back and watch the show.
That is
again.
absolutely unbelievable.
When was the last time you watched the show, huh?
I don't know, a year ago maybe.
A year? That's cap. It's been a couple of months max.
No, I haven't watched it in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet on that.
Mm-hmm.
But the point being,
Yeah, the gambler's way out. I'm willing to bet on that.
I'm willing to bet on it.
Okay.
But my point is that in this quote, he's explaining to Aang that, Aang, you don't know what your destiny is. You know simply, I want to be the Avatar, but you don't know the path. You know the end goal, but you're so certain that you know everything. Because Aang is begging, he's like, Zhong, teach me firebending. What does Zhong teach him? That you need to learn water, earth, and then fire. Fire comes last.
Okay, now I remember.
In the end, that was the path that Aang had to take. But Aang was too confident, too stuck in his ways, too arrogant to understand that maybe somebody knows better. Maybe I don't know it all. And what happened? If you watch that episode, you know
He tried it.
he tried firebending and he burns Katara.
Yep.
So he made that mistake because he was too arrogant to understand that he doesn't know everything. And you don't know your you don't know of life's destiny. You are the fish in a river. You don't know where the river is going. You know where you're going, though. You know the end goal, but where it takes you, you might be unsure of it. So to not let yourself get thrashed upon the shore by understanding that you need to have an unshakable mind. You need to be certain in the way you think, but you need to fully understand that you don't know everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the key to an unshakable mind, is one that is prepared for a curveball, because life is going to throw a lot of them at you.
Damn
and if
right.
you're not prepared to hit them, you're going to get a lot of strikes.
That's very good. That's a very good analogy. Yeah, for sure. And there's a lot of things we don't know about, which takes us perfectly into our next topic, sleep and rest. I never understood how deep the rabbit hole of sleep goes until I watched a YouTube video by Beyond Ordinary, I think. Or, yeah. And it was a video about sleep. And he was talking about the video is called How to Get 10x Better Sleep Tonight. And it was essentially based on a book written by a man named Matthew Walker. I don't think you'll recognize him, but if you saw a picture, you'd know. He's also given a fascinating TED Talk about the brain and how it reacts during rest as well. So I would strongly recommend that you guys go and check out that YouTube video. I'll put the link in the description. Oh my God, I feel like such a YouTuber now.
Yeah.
Link in the description, guys, but it's not even for my thing. But yeah, definitely check out that YouTube video. And also the book is called Why We Sleep. So it's also a very good book and very informative. So go out there and check those things out as well. But as I watched this YouTube video, it was late at night. You were working on your project. I was in the kitchen eating my rice and just chilling there, getting ready to wind down for the night. And I saw this video and I thought, you know what? I don't know much about rest. Maybe this could amplify some points in my life. Because do you ever have those days where you wake up and you are just energized to the max? But then other days you are just down in the dumps for some reason, even from the moment you get up, you don't understand why.
Yeah.
Those moments are from fluctuations in sleep and rest. Imagine you have a computer, like a PC, a gaming PC. You can't run that thing forever. It's going to overheat at some point, right? You're going to have to step away from the game every once in a while and give it a break. Now, the computer may have internal fans, for sure, to help keep it cool. For humans, that could be taking a nap, meditating, going on a walk, doing something peaceful. But at the end of the day, nothing can supplement the degree of recovery you get from a proper night's rest. This podcast is about improving every aspect of your life. It's not just about the discipline, the hard work, the unshakable mind. It's also about the rest and recovery portion of it, because that's key to a healthy life, to a long life. You're not going to live very long if you don't learn how to rest and recover your body. But that obviously doesn't mean take it easy when you need to be working, right? Work hard when work needs to be done, but then rest hard when you need to rest.
I think people misunderstand what rest is, because you say that, oh, I slept for 8 hours, but I'm tired. But did you really? Because I feel like for the first 4 of those 8 hours, you were sitting there scrolling on your phone. And then you passed out and considered, oh, I've been laying in my bed this whole time. Clearly, I've rested. But have you really? You didn't. I feel like everybody needs to learn proper sleep habits. And I think me too, I'd say sometimes I'm using my phone before I go to sleep, which you definitely should not do. But it really makes me angry. What really makes me angry is when people say, I need my phone to fall asleep. And I'm so, I don't want to say it makes me angry. That makes me sound like a bad person. But I feel like people are so misguided, because you could just lay there, and sometimes you have to stew in it. And I think that for me, sleep is where I get my best thoughts. And I'd say I don't want to say a dreamer, but I'm a big thinker. I like to plan out scenarios in my head. I play it out. I see, how could this go? And that has made me such a more cognitive person. And I think that's been a big contributor to my success in school, is because my brain is like just firing. And it's become a bad thing sometimes when I'm trying to sleep and I just can't stop thinking. But it's become a great thing in a lot of parts of my life. And that's because I took that time to genuinely reflect. Think about it. When is another time in your life where you're going to lie down and hear nothing and possibly see nothing? you just close your eyes and you just lay there. But instead, people want to blast something in their ears on their AirPods until they pass out. And then at that point, you've already wasted half the time you could have spent sleeping.
And if you really think about it, you are not resting. You are over exhausting yourself so that you force yourself to rest. Did you think about that?
Yeah.
Because the way that rest is supposed to be is in that video, one thing he talks about is the buildup of a chemical called adenosine. Okay. Adenosine is the chemical that helps your brain realize it's time to sleep. It's one of the chemicals, I believe, that helps your brain realize it's time to sleep. So one thing that helps block adenosine is caffeine. So that's the whole relationship there of how caffeine keeps you awake. The other thing is your body produces melatonin when it starts to get tired, when it realizes, oh, it's getting dark outside. We need to go rest up for the next day. But then what do? Instead of letting your mind go through that regular rest cycle of, okay, daylight is here, time to go to, or daylight is gone, time to go to sleep. Now instead you blast your face with blue light until your body can no longer handle it, and then you pass out.
Or even, because like I've seen people that say, oh, I have blue light blocking glasses. And I'm like, yeah, that's great, but what about the overstimulation you're giving your brain? Right? Your brain isn't going to sleep by you, what you're watching on YouTube or you're scrolling or Netflix or whatever, it's not lulling you to sleep. It's literally straining your brain to the point of passing out.
Exhaustion.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
Pure exhaustion.
That's all it is. It's like if you said, I want to, lie down and rest, so you go run a marathon. And then you lie down after and like, damn, yeah, that's some good rest. Obviously, that makes no sense, right? You don't run a marathon so you can lie down. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So understanding that your phone isn't what's putting you to bed, it's you breaking your brain and then forcing it to repair itself.
Yeah.
I think there's enough misconception around sleep. I think on both ends, because there's some people that over exaggerate how much you need to sleep,
Yeah.
and there's people that under exaggerate how much you need to sleep. You need to sleep. Like right now, we went to bed extremely late or early, however you want to depict it, last night, because
let's call it for what it is. That was extremely late. That's what it is.
It was like around 4 a.m. almost.
Yeah,
when we
pretty
actually
much.
went to sleep. And then I had to get up at 9 o'clock.
That's so ironic that we're sitting here saying how important sleep is, and then last night was probably the worst night of sleep we've had.
Yeah,
in
but
a while.
I think that the way that I see it is one bad night.
Yeah.
Okay, no. Not one bad night. One great day that leads to a bad night is not so, once in a while isn't terrible. Because the reason that we were out was not because we were partying or drinking, it's because we were, doing business.
Yeah.
So the way that I see it is if you use your day effectively, once in a while it is okay to take a day where you go at it
Hard. Yeah.
right? It's the reason why every once in a while you run a marathon. You don't do it every day. It's because your body needs the time to recover.
Yeah.
So maybe you do pull an all-nighter. I don't recommend it ever. I think you should always get some sleep. I think if your lack of planning is that bad, you might be cooked. Like I don't really know what else to say. But you need to definitely avoid doing all-nighters because I think what I don't understand is people that pull all-nighters studying, because at some point you're not even effectively studying. You're just doing it to make yourself feel like you did.
Damn.
And
that is so
I
true.
know this because I remember one time we were at Denny's at about 1 a.m. studying for a calculus test. And I had my laptop out, I'm teaching my friend calculus. And like I'm sat there and I'm like, man, I don't even know what I'm saying to this guy anymore. Like, I genuinely don't think I'm teaching him anything. We're just sat here talking about derivatives, and I don't know what I'm saying. And then I look over at him. He's like, and I'm just like, sir, I don't think I've said anything that makes any sense, because we're both so tired that this studying wasn't effective at all. So I ask you, when you pull an all-nighter to study, do you genuinely believe that you are doing better on that test? I genuinely don't think so, because first off, you're going in with half done studying job, because really for most of that night you probably didn't study. And for the next day, you're going to be absolutely exhausted. How do you expect to perform on that?
Yeah, and it's fascinating because let's actually take this to the topic of school and studying, because that's where I was going to go next. I found some absolute gems of YouTube videos on how to properly study. And I remember it's when I was painting this room, funny enough, for the podcast studio, that I watched a video about how a Harvard student studies for his exams. And I thought this guy was going to say, I go through an extensive 8-hour studying regimen every single day, and that's how I make it at Harvard. And he said something, I'll never forget it, because this sentence changed my entire perspective on studying. He said, when studying, your goal should not be to study for as long as possible. Your goal should be to study everything in the least amount of time possible. The goal is not to sit chained to your desk for 10 hours staring at a textbook. The goal is to go through the chapters of the textbook in 4 intense hours. Yeah. The point is, you need to focus it down to, I work really hard, I study for this amount of time, and then I rest for this amount of time. Yeah. And it's from another YouTube video I watched just now, because I was going through an organic chemistry course, and I was trying to figure out the best way for me to figure out how to study. Now, that's the thing. I'm in my 3rd year of university, and even at this point, now granted, I've been doing pretty all right, but for my future courses, I need to have a very solid study plan. So even now, I don't have it all figured out. So if you don't stress. Just take it easy and figure it out as you go along. But this one YouTube video that I watched, he drew a graph, okay? So there's a green bar here, a red line here. All right, I guess I'll go in chronological order. So the red line at the top is called the burnout barrier. If you go and study for anything longer than that or harder than that, you will burn out and hate your life, okay? The layer below that is deep work. That is where you want to be when you're studying. You want to be completely focused, all distractions cut out for a set amount of time. Block it out. Just cut out all the distractions and focus on studying. Then you have a little bit of a yellow line here, which I'll get to in a minute. And at the bottom, you have another green section for rest, okay? Your goal is to sit in this deep work layer and study as hard as you can. Then, when you're done studying, you drop straight down to the other green layer of rest. You don't want to float in the middle yellow layer, because that's where you drift away. You study half, or you study exhausted. You study while listening to music or playing games or watching a show. You just kind of half do your way through the homework. That is not where you want to be, because you'll spend 8 hours doing something that could be done in 4 if you were up here in this green level. So whatever you're doing, dedicate your time to it. And the best way, I'll flip this whole script about rest. Many people think that rest is what I'm doing when I need a break from work. No, rest is its own aspect that you need to dedicate yourself to. It's not just something about taking a break. That's not what rest is. Rest is about full recovery. You need to put your mind and your body through a recovery process. It's not just, oh, I'm going to lay here and that's my rest. No, you have to take it seriously. Sleep is insanely important for the body and mind. You cannot function without sleep. And for all my gym bros out there, because I guarantee you there's people out there interested in fitness, especially guys, sleep is critical for testosterone production. If you don't sleep properly, did you know that your testosterone levels can drop to somebody who is 10 years older than you? Do you want to be an old man? Do you want to have old man testosterone? No disrespect to the old men listening. But as a 20-year-old, like young, fit man, do you want to have the testosterone levels of somebody who is 10 years older than you? Probably not. And for everybody else out there who is not concerned about their testosterone levels, do you want to die? I don't think so. So sleep, because sleep is critical for your body's repair, right? They say that the lifespan of somebody who doesn't sleep is significantly shorter. I believe the percentage was about 10 to 15% shorter than somebody who sleeps properly every single night. And on top of that, you know how long the average person sleeps in their lifetime?
How long?
1/3 of their life. So for the average person, that's about 26 years.
Makes sense.
Of sleeping.
Yeah.
And yet you want to ruin that 26 years? Think about throwing away 26 years of your life for a bunch of, yellow level studying or garbage, whatever you want to incorporate in there. So the biggest point is, when you work, you work. But when you rest, really dedicate yourself to it. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect on this aspect either. But recently, after watching that YouTube video, I really dedicated myself and I said, okay, this is my regimen. Okay, I sleep at this time, I wake up at this time. So for you to get a good night's sleep, what do you need to do? I'll boil it down. That video is about 30 minutes long. So if you want a really in-depth talk about like deep sleep, REM, sleep cycles, circadian rhythm, all these things, then you can go ahead and watch that video, read the book, do your own research. But if you want a condensed version, I'll give it to you right now. A, focus on how light affects your schedule. Because if you think about it, we weren't born to have all these devices with blue light around us. We were born to follow the daylight cycle. When the sun comes up, we're awake. When the sun goes down, we sleep. So align yourself with that, which leads me to my next point, or schedule. You need a sleep schedule. You need to sleep at the same time every day and wake up at the same time every day. Like you said, every once in a while, having a late night because you have responsibilities is totally fine. If we said embrace, sleep over work, that would be putting you in the comfort zone where everything's cushy and you can do whatever you want. No, life is not like that. You will have to lose sleep sometimes. But try to organize and plan your life in a way that you can get everything done before it gets that bad. Chunk out the assignments, chunk out the work, and make your life structured.
You want to know something funny? It's a quote from a Prince EA video that I really loved. And he's talking about how all these, financial gurus are telling you, yeah, you don't need to sleep. You don't need to sleep. Work, 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 work. And one of the things they say is, I'll sleep when I'm dead. And then he said, you'll be dead if you don't sleep. They're saying this as if they're going to make it to the end. You're cutting your life short to save time. Does that really make sense?
The irony.
Yeah, it's so ironic. You take away that time and put it here, but the amount that you lose is not as much as you're gaining. It's like gambling. You usually lose. Okay, actually, no, you always lose. In this scenario, it's like gambling with 100%.
Yeah, we are not endorsing gambling in the slightest.
Absolutely not. It is a 100% lose scenario here because it is proven that if you don't sleep, you will die a lot faster than the time that you spend here.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, 10 to 15% of your life gone, that's a big chunk.
Yeah.
That's like what? Supposing you live 90 years, that's like 9 years, basically a decade of your life. And you mean to tell me that that doesn't sound like a big deal to you?
And that's not even the only effect. If you think about it, tack on the 10 years of age your body feels like as a man.
Yeah.
Your testosterone levels are dropping that much about 10 years, right? So if you incorporate all those together, the negatives clearly outweigh the positives of trying to stay up and pull all-nighters. Mm-hmm. But like we said, we're all human and we all have responsibilities and goals. So if you need to be sleep deprived every once in a while, there's nothing wrong with that. Put your heart and soul into what you do. That is very important in life.
But don't forget to also put your heart and soul into your rest.
Exactly. So biggest thing is sleep schedule, follow the daylight cycle, and also avoid screens and eating a couple hours before bed. I didn't actually know that eating 2 hours before bed is bad. Or
I've heard that.
An hour and a half before bed or something like that. Like you want to be done eating 2 hours before bed. And the reason why is your body is trying to digest all the food and extract the nutrients out while you sleep. When you're like awake. But if you lay down, first of all, apparently laying down horizontally is bad for the digestive tract. It makes it much more difficult to actually extract these nutrients. And if you think about it, if you try to run the factory of your digestive system while you're trying to sleep, it's like forcing them into overtime labor when the rest of the body is trying to sleep. It's not really going to work. Like realistically, you'll probably have a harder time falling asleep because aspects of your body are still functioning as if it was daylight.
Okay, I got a question for you then.
What's your question, sir?
If scientists believe that, eating at night is bad, why is there a light in the fridge?
What if your fridge is stored in the basement and there's no light bulb in the basement?
Why would you not have a light bulb in your basement?
I don't know.
Maybe it's more concerned. How would you be able to find your fridge in a pitch black room? I think that's
okay. Well,
how would you you're carrying pots and but all this food to put in your fridge and then you just fall down the stairs. You just die. Like at that point, sleep ain't your problem. The stairs are.
Okay. All right. Fair play. Okay, I don't know why they put a light in the fridge, but, realistically, do you think that the corporate companies that make these fridges care about whether you sleep or not? You know damn well they don't.
It's
They are
all a
putting the light in there.
scam.
They're putting the light in there so that you go there and you eat a snack at midnight so you don't sleep properly. Then the next day to try and feel energized, you eat more. So what? You need to buy more food to put in the fridge. And then guess what? Your fridge gets full of food. Now what do
buy
you do?
another fridge.
You buy another fridge.
It's all propaganda.
It's all corporate greed.
Yeah. It's all coming together now. It's all
God.
coming together now.
Oh, God.
It's quite the side tangent. I'm not gonna lie.
It is. But that's what we do here. We kind of enjoy it, guys. You got to enjoy life. Don't get too caught up in these,
Don't be so
boxes.
certain that life is gonna go exactly where you plan. You know, sometimes you know the destination, and the destination of this episode is its conclusion. But how we get there, we aren't too sure. Sometimes you just gotta
Go with the
float
flow.
along with the wind. You know.
Yeah, but still have the unshakable mind to stay on point. But before we go, we still have one more thing to talk about.
We do.
The last topic for today is expanding your understanding of the world. Now, one point that you brought up earlier was how the mind is not the only way to it's not the only lens to look through, right? And you were saying this is something that you feel like you need to grow in. And that's because of a conversation that you and I had last night where we were talking about the differences between you and I, how we see the world. You are going to come across many, many people from different walks of life with different opinions, especially when you engage in activity on the internet. You're going to see people with all sorts of outlandish opinions. That's why when people post videos like, your girl smiles at somebody else's text, is that a body? Those kinds of situations are obviously posted on the internet to incite a reaction out of everybody, piss people off. But when you look at posts like that, you got to understand that, of course, there's going to be comments in there that completely go against everything you stand for. People who have no basis for what they're saying. But you just got to accept that that's their own opinion and just move on. Because the world is a huge place. And as you grow, you begin to realize that. It's something that I had to be taught as well, because I'd say you and I grew up pretty similar, right? The age gap between us is not huge. We consumed majority of the same media. We read the same books, watched the same TV shows, went through the same school system. We are shaped in the same way. But just like how I came from your position to my position of understanding things, that doesn't mean I know everything, but I've certainly learned a lot through experience about how different people are. You will learn the same as you expand that view. So my best advice to everybody out there who is going through the younger phases of your life, understand that you're going to meet a lot of people that contradict everything you believe about life. But as you do, don't hold it against them because A, they grew up in a different way than you did. They learned their values from different people. Their experiences shaped them, right? And B, how do we create a positive and peaceful world or society? By accepting people for who they are as people, not based on their opinions alone. That doesn't mean that we should endorse ridiculous behavior or degenerative thoughts and behavior, because I think that those are detrimental to society. And I feel like we've taken the whole accepting people thing a bit too far, because there's a difference between opinion and a sense of self and delusion. There's a big difference between those two. And I think that drawing that line is important. But to you out there who might judge somebody for something small, like, I don't know, if they like their Pop-Tarts hot or cold, for example, okay? Yeah. There could be very, basic things that you could judge a person on that you shouldn't, because you could have lost a potential friend. And I always like to bring it back to the greatest example involving you is how you met one of your best friends in physics class, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, where he just showed up and sat down, and as he alleges, you were singing the Star Wars song.
Dude, that was the first off. That's not even the same class, so get your facts straight.
Oh, okay.
Secondly, that never happened, and he's a liar. But really, actually, the way the story goes is I was sitting in physics, and there's a guy sitting next to me, and this guy, I don't really talk to him at all, but we knew each other. And then my current friend walks in, and again, he and I know each other, but we don't really talk. I was friends with one of his friends, and that's how he knew me. But he was like, "Yo, can I sit next to this guy?" And the guy next to me was like, "Okay," and then he left. And then he sat down, and that's what started it all. And I think that I associated him with, I think initially I had a bad view, but as we talked and we talked and we talked, and we talked about such stupid things like conspiracy theories and the ice walls, we eventually came to, I came to terms with that. This is the kind of person he is, and I can appreciate that kind of person.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think if you live your life so strict and like root in your ways, you miss out on the opportunities to see people because nobody's going to be like you. Nobody's going to think exactly like you. Like even you and I, while we like to say that we're pretty similar, we still have very big differences between us. And being able to appreciate that about a person and respect that about a person is how you foster the best possible relationships.
Yeah. And that pretty much sums it up for everything I wanted to talk about. So I think that everybody's found this pretty insightful, educational, had some funny moments along the way, some good side tangents.
Yeah.
But now,
you guys know what time it is. Before y'all go, it's time for quote
of
the
week.
I just want to say it feels kind of nice to not be saying the quote of the week. It felt kind of out of place yesterday, like last
Right?
week for me.
I thought the same thing when I had the guest episode with Eric, and I had to say, live a positive life, y'all. Peace out. Like, it just felt really weird for me. Like, we have like a way of doing things,
Yeah,
a
I know.
sequence.
Yeah.
And when you disrupt it, it feels odd.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
I think change is a good thing.
change is certainly a good thing. And I feel like that's something we'll definitely talk about on another day.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to the quote of the week. All right. Man's mind, once stretched by a new idea, never returns to its original dimensions. And that quote is by Oliver Wendell Holmes. Me personally, no idea who this guy is. But I was sitting in my organic chemistry class, funny enough, and that quote was on the top of our PowerPoint presentation for the day. And I just sat there and I was like, it's a very interesting quote. I'm going to write that
Why
down.
was that on your... Does your
No
teacher just do
idea.
that?
Yeah, he's kind of an interesting guy. He put quotes on like the page, like the first page of every PowerPoint presentation, he had like a little quote about how you can be great. I have another one actually written down for another future episode.
Well, that's nice.
But I wrote that one down because I thought that it would be helpful to explain to you that once you expand your understanding of the world, it opens you up to a whole new horizon of life.
Wow.
So you're not going to go back to thinking like a small-minded person once you really expand your thought
Yeah,
process,
because
right?
you no longer are a small-minded person.
Exactly. So you grow out of it.
But unfortunately, this concludes episode 26 of the Brighter Horizons podcast. Thank you guys so much for sticking around all the way to the very end. And boy, is it nice to be back. It's nice to be back with us too.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that in your life you're open to change and you aren't so rigid in your ways, but you still maintain an unshakable mind. Be certain through the uncertainty of life and make sure you live a positive life, y'all. Peace out.